Hello, hello, everyone. What is going on, everybody? How you guys doing? My name is Z Robinson. I am a ZBrush instructor here at Maxon, and we do sculpting, and we have a lot of fun doing it. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to always come and ask. Hopefully, you guys came to the summit and enjoyed yourself, because the summit was really cool. So if you haven't checked out the ZBrush summit, you guys have to check that out, because it's a lot of fun. You can always point links and stuff to it. What is going on? Omid, how you doing? Welcome in, welcome in. It's a little quiet. Let me get some music on. I like having some music in the background. You guys just have to tell me if it's too loud. All right. Let's try somewhere around there. All right. So today, I'm actually streaming from home. Usually I stream from the office, but today, working from home, which is really cool. So we're doing a Velociraptor kind of Jurassic Park 1 vibes. That's where we're going with this. It's going to be for a really cool project I'm working on with one of my colleagues. So definitely going to be doing a lot of cool stuff with this, including retopoing. I might retopo on this stream. I don't know. We'll see how long that takes. Kind of cleaning up right now. I got some anatomy reference for the head, some anatomy reference as a whole, just to kind of get a vibe of where it's going so it doesn't look too crazy. But we are kind of going for that Jurassic Park look. So that's why we're not going to be doing feathers and stuff like that on this one. But that doesn't mean we won't do more in the future. What is going on, action movie kids? Welcome in, welcome in. All right, so this is where I'm at right now. I've done some cleanup and stuff, but we definitely need to like refine it a little bit more. It's still kind of in the rough stage. I haven't really done anything with it since a couple weeks ago. So let me get my glove. Where is it? It's over here with my pops. Let me get my glove and let's start working. And of course, too, you guys can always ask questions. Jackpot winner! Welcome, welcome. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this. So right now, what I want to do is kind of refine this a little bit. I want to get the muscle callouts a bit better. I have some, let me see. Whee. All right, we're going to use the /3 brush to do this. Turn off RGB, and we'll drop the intensity down just a little bit. And looking at the anatomy reference, we're going to call a couple muscles that should be showcased primarily in his legs. So actually, let's turn the stroke up a little bit. I like a big stroke like that. And this is still Dynamesh. We haven't ZRemeshed it yet. I want to get the rest of the shapes in before we decide to do any ZRemeshing. My fingers are hitting all sorts of buttons today. There we go. She here. She's a beaut. Yes. Yeah, man. Yeah, you guys have to check out Action Movie Kids because channel's amazing. This is where it's going. Hashi, I forgot that was your handle for a second. Now it all rings a bell. All right. So we're gonna use the /3. I like to use the slash brush for muscle definition. And to get some decent cuts going in where there should be some movement. There we go. We'll do the same here under her arm. And here for the trapezius as well. Go. And we're going to use clay buildup here just to kind of inflate this a little bit. Then kind of to knock this down. Kind of cleaning that edge up a little bit, giving a little bit more of a natural definition. And kind of light smooth just to kind of blend that in just a bit. Hey, what's up, Leonard? How you doing, man? Leonard, I don't know if you saw, man, but I'm working on my ornament. Still need some work on that one. A little light smooth. Because it's Dynamesh, I can get away with smoothing a little bit more. And then we'll kind of fill this part in. like that. Usually don't smooth too much too often during refining phases, but when it's Dynamesh, it doesn't smooth as aggressively because it's pretty dense, especially at 2.3 million. So the smoothing actually has a little bit more control to kind of do like a little bit of a subtlety. That's not wiping away all my details. So in this instance, it works out fairly decently. Knock that back a little bit. So it's just a balance act at this point. Back and forth, back and forth. Bit of a skin flap. I don't want to take that too much. Witch Cat Crochet, what's going on? Thank you, thank you. The purple names are a little hard to read, so I apologize. Ian, do you have any course or guides made by you for beginners? So we're actually working on stuff right now at Maxon specifically for beginners, but right now, yeah, I actually have a Demystify series. Let me find that for you. It's actually a great intro into ZBrush because we were actually pushing specifically for beginners, and we were doing it for Halloween. So actually, let me go ahead and pull that up. Have it here on YouTube. Here, let me go ahead and just go to YouTube real quick. You guys will see everything that I look up these days. Let's see, let's go to, let's go Maxon, ZBrush, Demystify? Demystify. Perfect. All right, perfect. Here is 1 of 5. All right, so we'll not play the ad, but here is a link straight to this completely beginner by me. The 5-part series because it's about an hour each. And let me mute this real quick and kind of hopefully we can skim through this commercial. Not what we're about here. We don't want no stinking commercials. Get out of here. Okay. So you can see here, we're actually going to be going through and I'm going to be talking about all the different aspects. If you play this one video, you'll get started in ZBrush really, really quickly. It gets you going through, and this is ultimately at the end of the 5-part series what we end up making, which is really, it's a lot simpler than it will look because we use assets within ZBrush. We build, we're building our tombstone as well as using text, live boolean. We're doing a little bit of everything in this 5-part series, so definitely scrub through that. So that would be your best bet. That's the most recent one. Absolutely, you are so welcome. You did. I'm doing paint tests on my. Nice, Leonard. Nice. Yeah. And feel free, by the way, too, when you do that Demystify series, tag me at IR Sculpts. Go ahead and tag me because I love to see that stuff. And I even mentioned that in the video. So feel free to go ahead and run through it. And then, of course, too, this is the best time. I stream here every Wednesday. So if you have any questions specifically about, like, you're struggling with something or you need, like, a little bit of guidance, you go ahead and ask as well, and I'll try to point you in the best direction possible. Okay, cool. So now we're just trying to get the kind of anatomy in here. And then what's really cool about these raptors is we might as well just get used damn standard here. What's really cool about these raptors is the texture is so simple on these guys. So like literally like when we're going to be texturing him, literally just going to be like throwing a bunch of like random X's and stuff on here. And we're going to start getting some nice skin texture when we start doing that. So texturing is going to be a lot of fun. We're also going to be adding some bumps and little nicks and dings. You can kind of already see here, I already have some texture started on the neck. This was to kind of make sure the neck was looking the way I wanted it to look. What's really fascinating, though, is the skull. Probably one of my favorite. Hey, you were awesome at the ZBrush Summit, especially the tour Sideshow Collectibles. Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate that. I had a lot of fun. Everybody at Sideshow was amazing. They welcomed us in with open arms. It was really, really cool. Honestly, couldn't have been happier with that segment. So glad you guys liked it too. Hello, 1212. How you doing? Welcome in, welcome in. Okay. All right, so let's take a step back for a second. here. We got this main muscle here. We need the calf muscles coming through. Let's go back to that /3. I'm going to kind of cut these calf muscles in just a little bit. What's really neat is if for some reason like you're having a hard time grabbing something or you're trying to like get a certain angle, don't be afraid to come in here and just select the thing that you need. And if you're working symmetrically but it's a little hard to see, a little trick that I do sometimes is I'll turn off symmetry, slow this out, and I'll work on the screen left side of things. So I'll be working on this side, and because my model's symmetrical, I'll just mirror and weld. So this is another great way to do that. You could come through here, start like kind of cutting in some of those details. You could come through here like this. And push this in, refine this one leg, and then just mirror and weld that. Sometimes when you're sculpting, you want to break it up. It'll give you a lot easier of a time. Nice. How are you? I'm doing good. 12/12. Doing really, really good. Can't complain. Tomorrow's a holiday in the U.S., so a nice mellow day today. Got some sculpting coming in. Yeah, overall, I'm really, really happy. I can't complain. Thanks for asking. Barrett, hi. Hey, how you doing? Floby Art, hey, Ann. Any tips on managing lots of subtool folders? Ooh, great question, actually. I guess really, too, it would depend on what you mean by managing subtool folders, but this is probably the worst example right here. Especially since I still have this top hat on this model, which is really funny. Let's go ahead and just throw that one out. Okay, so let me actually load up another model of mine. Like, it gives a little bit better example of how I do it. Honestly, what I like to do is just kind of keep things organized in a way that that makes the most sense. So here's my posed model of this earthworm gem that I'm working on. Here you go. Look at that. Look at that guy. And so one of the things I do is kind of group things together that make sense. So like I have the head here all in one folder, but it's broken up into the eyes, a T-posed version of his head, the posed version of his head, and possibly some teeth as well. So I just try to group things together that makes the most sense. With the gloves, I kept the gloves separate because they're detached from the model. The body, what's really cool about the body is I went ahead and just everything that pertained to it, the straps, except for like, that's the backpack. The straps, the posed version, the T-posed version, the soles of the shoes, which I spelled wrong because I can't spell, straps, belts. So anything that pertains to the main elements, that's how I organize my stuff. Same here with a blaster. I got a blaster on this side, and then I have the rocket ship in one piece. So I try, when I'm really trying to stay organized, I keep liked items grouped together, so then I can always, so when I'm working on something, like for example, if I'm working on this backpack, I know exactly what's going on. And what's cool about that is if I ever needed to utilize the visibility set, or what I call the subfolder organization, like let's say V8, I know I could just come through here and just open up. I know where those components are. So it just helps me stay organized as best as possible, but I know everything's within that one folder. So then I can even take those folders and say, okay, backpack is V8, and then let's go to the head, just as the example, and the head would be V7, right? So when I need to work on the head really quickly or need to shoot over to the backpack, I then can say, oh, I know V8 had everything selected. Now, of course, if you choose to, like I have solo on, so I know V8 has just the backpack, and I know V7 has just the head. I know V3, so you know what I mean? Like, so you can take those folders and then you can designate them to a specific visible set. So I like to have a V1 show everything, and then usually I'll start breaking down. Sometimes I get lazy, and I'm just like going to V2 and delete it, just like hiding what I don't want to see. But when I'm really organized, that's how I do it. So I would say that's the best way to go about it. Well, at least, you know. It's crazy the same muscles are on humans as they are different It's crazy the same muscles are in humans, they're just different size and shape. You know what? That is actually a really fascinating perspective you have, because I thought the same thing. What's really interesting about animals in general, in my opinion, is the more I study the anatomy, the more I'm realizing that there are so many similarities between human anatomy and animal anatomy. The main difference is placement and function. You know, my shoulder may not function exactly the same way as this velociraptor, but there's similarities. And if you can hone in on those similarities, I find it's an easier time getting those in place, and at least getting to a spot where you're like, yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. So you don't have to make up so much. But what's really cool about that, and this is kind of my tip too, is if you are struggling with anatomy a little bit, while don't get me wrong, there is a profession for insects, there's a profession for creatures. You know, air killers, probably the first name that comes to mind when it comes to insects. There are people who really go in hard with insect anatomy because it's really intricate. But I encourage beginners to try to sculpt insects or animals, because most people, when they're judging a model or they're looking at your sculpt, even though they may not be able to tell you what's wrong with it, they'll understand what's wrong with a human because we see humans every day. But if you sculpt something like an alligator, most people know what an alligator looks like. So if it's not 100% correct, they're not going to recognize it as easily as they would a human. So I always encourage, you know, even intermediate to advanced artists, if they've never sculpted any type of creature, to do so, because the anatomy, it can help you kind of refine that anatomy without stressing yourself out about whether or not it looks exactly like the thing it's supposed to look like. So it's really cool, and there's a little bit of slack there. So I highly encourage that. And for that very specific reason, it's just because there's so many similarities. But, you know, take your studies seriously, and you'll go far real quick. Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Barrett. Have a good one, dude. Thanks for stopping by. Yep. What's going on, Carbon 4444444? And Matt! What's up, dude? Yeah, of course, Lobby. Absolutely. You know, I have to see the latest Jurassic Worlds. I have only seen part of Jurassic World, and I've only never seen the second one. So I should probably do that. Honestly, I'm a huge fan of the original Jurassic Park. Not gonna lie, I really do love it. Okay, so here, right here, what I can do is, as long as that local sim is turned off here and it's truly symmetrical, I can mirror and weld on the x-axis. Because my model's Dynamesh and I'm not really worried about the topology at the moment, you can see here, mirror and weld, I was able to work on just the one and refine that. We're going to do the same thing here for the arm itself. So again, I'm going to go ahead and turn off symmetry. I'm going to select just her arm. Hashi, we gotta decide a name. Gotta decide a name on her. I'll leave that up to you. And now we're gonna focus on this aspect right here. Let's go ahead and save this because I need to do that. Doing hair cards, and it's some kind of hell. I feel you so much, man. Honestly, ooh, that's a great question. For Action Movie Dad Hashi. Yeah, here, question for you, buddy. If we do ever want to do feathers, let me know. Because we could probably do something with hair cards in that instance in the future. It doesn't have to be now, because this is already going to be amazing, but not against it is my point. Okay, now that we have this here, so same difference actually. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of define where the deltoid and bicep are going to be, just for my own sake here, so that I make sure I get some of the shapes right. Because again, kind of the same difference here, right? We have the bicep that comes through here. We have the pectoral leading into the deltoid in this aspect. So while I'm not going to be bulking it up, I do want to kind of just give some subtle definition to some of these elements. Go back to /3. And just to kind of make sure that I'm getting some of the stuff I like. And let's go ahead and just, again, kind of cut this section off here. There we go. This is just kind of for my own visualization. Although surprisingly, our representation of dinosaurs, they seem to be fairly shredded. Dougie! What is happening, dude? Been a while for sure, man. Welcome in, dude. Great to see you. Always. You gotta go pick up the kids, and then it's back to rapper time. Awesome, dude. Pick up those kids. Hello, hello. I'm new to using ZBrush. I really like this software. Awesome. Well, you come to the right place because I professionally teach ZBrush for a living here at Maxon. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop away. But also, too, I shared this earlier. I'll share it again. There is a Demystify ZBrush that we shot in all of October, Halloween themed, very beginner friendly, just so that you can get into it and start sculpting and trying different things. And so it's a lot of fun. Definitely check that out. Evan, you're still waiting on somebody to create an uber detailed, I can't even pronounce that, but I will look it up. Because I'm actually in the mood to sculpt some crazy dinosaurs. Oh. Oh. Hey, Kevin. Okay, I see you here. I see you. And I'm digging it. I'm digging it. You know what I'm going to do? I'm not even joking. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save this. I'm going to bookmark this. Boop. There you go. For your eyes. I'm going to bookmark this. Not against this. Not promising at the moment, but not against it either. You might see that in the future. Let's see. You are welcome to see. How's it going? Hey, what's up, Harvard? How you doing? Welcome. It's going, dude. It's going. I'm super excited. We're making a raptor today. And can you share anything about ZBrush 2023 will be available? Okay, we have not announced anything publicly about ZBrush 2023 release date at this time. So as soon as we do, you guys will be the first to know. But if you have any questions about what was showcased at the summit, feel free to ask and I can answer them as best I can. For those of you who don't know, in fact, I'm even going to go ahead and point straight to it just so that you guys can see what is down the pipe. We're going to come right in here. Look at that, Ryan Reynolds. Hey, dude. So we're going to go ZBrush Summit 2022, day 4. On the very last day, that's not. This is me. Oop. This is me. Happening right there. Yeah, there it is. Okay, I guess it's technically day. Here we go. So right here at this timestamp, I'm going to go ahead and share it just as it is. Pull this up just for a bit. Jeez Louise. So let's come through. I'm going to go ahead and share this at this timestamp so you guys can scrub through it. But this will basically talk about the features that we talked about, including Redshift in ZBrush. So believe you me, it was really amazing to see that actually happen. So super excited to want to share that with everyone. Thanks. Thanks, Kern. Yes, I've been an employee at Maxon ZBrush since April. So going on less than a year. I was hired and it's amazing. So I get to teach ZBrush every single day. You get to come through, work with awesome companies, awesome people to basically spread the good word about how awesome ZBrush is. So yeah. Work very closely with an amazing team. Paul Gabriel, Louis Tucci, awesome people to work with. Seriously, and many others that do amazing work behind the scenes. So yeah, it's super amazing. Thanks, man. Thanks. Now you know, Doug. Now you know. Yeah, no, it's super cool. Okay. So here, kind of looking at my my own anatomy for this moment in time, just to make sure that I get some of the bony landmarks in correctly. Frederick, I'm so excited. Just got a job as a 3D sculptor and designer at McFarlane Toys. You start in January. Hot diggity dog, dude. That is awesome. Congratulations. Seriously. Yes, that is so cool. Also, JoJo, but yeah, no, it keeps resetting from dark mode to light mode. I don't like it. Oh, man, that is so awesome. That is so, so awesome. Congratulations, Frederick. That is so cool. So proud of you. Man. Man, that's something. That's awesome news. Okay, we got a little something something here. Kind of smooth that down just a little bit. Just get that landmark. Any books you can recommend on game design or art in general? Yeah, actually, for game design, not so much, just because I don't come from the game world. I've done a few things, but I would not claim to be a super expert because I haven't worked at any AAA studios of that caliber. However, art-wise, well, if you already don't have Anatomy for Sculptors, shame on you. You should definitely have that. That's one of my favorite art books, just because there's so much knowledge there. But there was a book I'm planning on getting. If you're into hard surface, and this is up to my hard surface game for sure. But if you're into hard surface, you definitely should check out, and this is no joke. Let me see if I can go full screen for you guys. Come here. Do I even have a full screen on this computer? I haven't streamed on this computer in so long. I do have a full screen. Okay, cool. So if you're into hard surface, definitely go to the Haynes. It's an actual automotive book, but get books like this that have like TIE Fighter, because it breaks down all of the really cool stuff, all the shapes. So and they had the Millennium Falcon, they had the TIE Fighter, they had the X-Wing, they had, I think they even had Boba Fett's ship. They had a lot of really cool stuff. So if you're into hard surface, this is definitely a series in which I want to get more of. So again, yeah, Haynes for that. Now, that's for hard surface. If you're into toys and you don't own this book, Pop Sculptor, while all of this is traditional sculpting, what's really cool about it is it might be hard to see, but you can actually see all the different joints on the inside and how they did it traditionally. And what this is really cool is because, you can't remember everything, but if you're ever trying to sculpt a joint, or you're trying to figure out how to make something work and it's not working for you, you can actually see how they did things back in the day. And also too, what's really cool is they have amazing sculpture artworks that you could take a look at. But they really break down exactly the tools you need, the armature, how to break something apart. So definitely check out Pop Sculpture. You can get this on eBay for cheap. I think I paid like 20 bucks for it, maybe. Same with the TIE Fighter. I think I paid like 30 bucks for the TIE Fighter. So stuff like that, I highly recommend. This book, I don't think you can get this book anymore, unless maybe you're in Japan or you know a friend in Japan. But I actually have the ZBrush. This is for 4R8 and 4R7. But what's really cool about it is you can get a ZBrush book like this. Really breaks apart aspects of ZBrush yourself that is just amazing to look at. And you can see how this whole this statue was made from the ground all the way up, which is really, really cool. This was by Sakaki, or you might know him as SK. He also streams here on ZBrush Live. I was lucky enough to get a copy of this book. Really awesome, but any book like that will also work. And then, of course, too, just look up, 3D World is a great magazine. They have a lot of really cool stuff there. So definitely check all that out. Pretty much any book that, inspires you, you should have in your repertoire. Can you boop boop? Yes. Nice. Okay, hold on. Any advice for a beginner? Honestly, best advice for a beginner would be to just start sculpting anything. Try everything. Try sculpting a tree. Try sculpting a creature, an insect, a human. Try sculpting all sorts of stuff and don't fret on it looking super amazing in the beginning. You're not trying to necessarily build the knowledge of everything at once. You're going to want to break it up into chunks, but sculpt things that make you happy, things that you like, and then try sculpting little things. And speed sculpts, while I don't rely on speed sculpting as something to focus all your attention on, doing like a 1 hour sculpt every day is going to improve so much. And if you do stuff like I've done a skull, I've done a candle, I've done little random things that won't take a lot of time, but it allows me to block something out really quickly and get something on paper, right? As best you can. And then just practice that. Take certain things, take random objects in the house and try to sculpt it. Just because you're trying to basically teach your brain a new skill. And you're also trying to learn software at the same time. So learning software and a new skill at the same time is probably the hardest thing you could do. You want to break it up. So, when you're going into ZBrush and you get comfortable in ZBrush and you're learning the little stuff, like play around with all these brushes, try little things. Don't be afraid to break the program. Don't be afraid to have a bad sculpt. You won't become an expert overnight, but you'll get more comfortable and then you'll get more confident. And then 2, don't be afraid to ask for advice or help or thoughts on something. It's because you're only going to grow the more you allow others to kind of help it out. And there's always good advice and there's bad advice. And the best thing to do is kind of listen to what people say and then meet them in the middle. So if it looks like something that's obviously like wrong, then it's like, okay, you know when to fix that. But if something comes in, it's like, well, I wouldn't do it that way. That's an opinion. Unless it's like anatomically incorrect or it doesn't fit the vibe. If it's just somebody's thought, then you can kind of take that, set it aside and be like, okay, cool. But if you end up agreeing with them, then that's always helpful as well. So, little things like that is really great. But just have fun. That's the biggest advice I can give. Have fun. Don't stress out. Because honestly, like some days, every job has their stresses. And if you're trying to get into the industry and you're new to it, there are going to be days that are just super frustrating, right? So if you enjoy what you do, you love it, it's just going to be easier. So sculpt fan art. Most of my portfolio, I would say 95% of my portfolio is fan art. And there's nothing wrong with that because you're sculpting, you're learning. And once you get more comfortable, then you could start moving into sculpting from concept. And then after a while, you'll just start picking it up and your body will naturally train itself. And you'll have ebbs and flows. Some days you'll be like, I'm the most amazing sculptor. And other days you'll be like, I suck. So I'm going on 8 years in, and there are still days I'm like, I suck. Today sucks. So just, connect with others who do what you do and enjoy what you enjoy, and it's super helpful. So that's my rant on that. As I clean up this arm, let's go ahead and mirror and weld it. Nice. Yes, especially you, Frederick. Now you're in toys, buddy. Welcome. You're so welcome, guys. Welcome. Icy Film. Hello. How you doing? Long time no see. Happy to see you again. Absolutely happy to see you as well. Alex, Noella. I need help with ZBrush Core. Sure. What's Alex? Tell me what you need. Do I have it installed? That might be. If I don't have it installed, do I have it installed? If I don't have it installed, I still might be able to answer your question, but I don't have it installed on this machine. But go ahead and ask your question. If I can help you, I will, or I can point you in a direction for sure. Try sculpting a sphere. Ah, Tim's art coming in hot. That's such a challenge, man. Yeah, the ZBrush Summit was great. The person doing cloth Dynamesh was an eye-opener. Yes. Cheryl Lynn from Bungie. Yes. That was day 2. So the link I shared earlier, let's see if I can share it again. The link I shared earlier, I believe that's the right one. Go to day 2. That one's day 3. Go to day 2. And yeah, wow, wowzers, for sure. That was amazing. It was so cool to watch on my side as well. What's your approach for sculpting hair? Up until now, I've sculpted it from a Dynasphere, but I've been testing a new method using insert hair curve for cleaner, sharper, and faster results. So, great question. And my approach for sculpting hair has always been kind of a twofold deal. So, and over the course of the summit, one of the sculptors at Sideshow, Will, he actually introduced a way I never thought to do it, because I don't play with ZSketch very often, but the way he did it was really, really cool. So that's also going to be something I'm going to recommend trying, but I am not, I haven't played with it myself yet. So the way I do it, let me go to Tool real quick here. Let me open up this ETL here for you. So what I do for hair, first off, is obviously you pick a style, and that style is always going to be dependent on what it is you're trying to, trying to go for. The other thing too is kind of think about, like, are you doing sculpting style hair, or are you trying to do hair for rigging? If you're doing hair cards, that's a little bit out of my element, so this will be more of the sculptural approach. But what I like to do is I like to take my mesh and I like to just block out a cap. Doesn't have to be super crazy, doesn't even have to be really good looking. I will just take kind of a cap approach, something like this, and I go the extract method, right? So I'll go down to subtool, extract, and I'll hit extract, kind of see what that cap looks like. I'll say that's pretty cool. This isn't my model, so great. And my cap, where's my cap? Where'd my cap go? Okay, well, let's try that again. Come down here, come down to extract, and then say accept. There we go. So now I have this, and this cap is going to be my starting spot. So what I'll do is I'll first work symmetrically. So let's turn on white. Let's go here. I'll first kind of work symmetrically just to give like a little bit of definition. I'll take the move brush, and I'll start just kind of like laying out the basic shape of it. Again, I'm not really going for anything other than just a visual reference at this point. If I want them to have sideburns, I'll kind of pull that down. Just get like the sense of something, right? And then once I have something that I like, I'll break away from symmetry immediately and I'll start sectioning this hair. So I'll have this part coming in on this side. So I'll actually kind of push that in. And I'll start creating that section. And where that part leads, and this is where we're going to start paying attention to, turn on dynamic subdiv, is where we're going to start paying attention to the segments that make the most sense. So from here, right, I have multiple polygroups. I'm actually going to, when I section a part, I'm going to create a new polygroup. Just like that. And usually I'll break that apart. So we'll do a split hidden. And we'll also do a close holes. So let's just go down to geometry, modify topology, and close holes. Where are you? Boop. There we go. And I'll do the same here, close holes. The reason why I split them apart, because now I'm going to be kind of refining this little shape here. Now this is still my base. This isn't the final hair. This is just to get a sense of where things are, and I have a little bit more control. Now, also, too, you're going to want to kind of ask yourself, are you going for stylization or are you going for realism? Once you know that, then you can kind of start moving away from the, from unnecessary details and just getting something that makes the most sense. So now that I have this, if I was going to go with something like maybe some style, then I'm going to start just building up hair chunks. So there's lots of different hair brushes, but in ZBrush we also have Curve Alpha, and you can just easily pick something like that guy. Perfect. And we can actually adjust this. Now, I will be the first to tell you, hair for me takes forever, just because I like to really have full control over everything. But in this case, you might actually reset this guy and kind of create just a little bit of a fall off here. Should I want peaky? Yeah. Let's try that. Okay, perfect. That's actually not too bad. Actually, flip that back the other way. There we go. And I like to modify and push things around myself. So what I'll do is I'll go to curve, and I'll actually repel strength. I'll turn all that off. And I'll start messing with my curves. That's a little too weird. Come here. Like I said, there's lots of different hair brushes too. I like to use SK brush, hairbrush sometimes. But let's just call that, let's just say that's kind of done. I'll then start layering. So from here, I'll start layering it depending on how it grows. So if it's short hair, I'm going to give kind of shorter chunks. And I would do little stacks like here. I would start, this is really quick by the way, just as an example. But I would start coming through, starting from the bottom and then layering on top and moving and adjusting and building off of it. Again, it depends on the approach that you want. That's really crappy at the moment, but hopefully that makes sense. But the biggest thing I would say is section off the hair. So if it's long hair, really pay attention to the kind of fall off on stuff. Here, 1 second. Let me refresh that. Let me come here. So if we're looking at long hair, the thing that you really want to pay attention to, because this is what, ooh, this is actually a great photo right here. Of course, go back. So you want to look at each individual section and you want to kind of group that. And you can do that with these longer chunks. So if I wanted this to have longer hair, I could say like, okay, I want this section to come down here. And then I'm going to refine this. So I'll come through and start shaping this and kind of manipulating this to make the most sense. And then if I go back to the hair curve, boop, I'll do the same thing. I'll come through and I'll lay something out, maybe adjust this a little bit. And then again, I'll refine each strand. In my opinion, there's no real fast way to do hair. I've seen some people get hair pretty quickly, but you could already see, like, you want to try to layer your hair as much as possible. And you also want to be able to have it make sense. Hair grows out of your head and flows out. So you want it to seem grounded. You don't want it to seem like it's just floating in space. You don't want this, right? Notice I tucked this part in a little bit. That's what you want. If you have it coming out like this, it looks a little weird, which is why I personally turned down the repel. But you can control that so it looks like it's growing out of the head. So even if you're like, okay, I want the repel, but I don't want a whole bunch, then I can just adjust that and then have that kind of come out and have it seem like it's coming out of the head. So a few different ways you can approach it, but I always start with sectioning the hair and giving me something and then layering on top of it. Hopefully this made a lot of sense. So just kind of like threw it out there. Also, too, I had to refresh the chat, so if there were questions that I missed, I'm sorry. Just notice that most pro sculptors prefer a big brush set over a big headset over earbuds. My outfit, guys from Flip Normals, etc. Is that really comfortable? It is, yeah. It is super comfortable right now. These this is Corsair HS80 RGBs. Really comfortable, especially since I'm wearing a beanie and it's even pressure over my ear, not in my ear. I wear these all day long and yeah, it's very, very comfortable. So 100%. That makes my ears airtight and I can mess up my hair easily if I spin straight. Hours on Sculpting. Yeah, I could see that. From the side show, some side example, I'm guessing he used an insert curve brush with individual hair strands. Yes. Well, once he had hair to refine, he then started refining it. And that's the other takeaway from it, is that you want to get the hair out as much as possible so that it reads well from afar and it looks good. And that's why he took a sculptural approach with things, sectioned it all out. He had a good block out. He built on top of it. And then from there, he started refining and pushing those details. And that's exactly what you want to do. You want to refine and push those details. But the block out, if the block out is no good, then the rest of the model is going to look kind of funky too. So it's super important to kind of just remember, start with the block out, get some shapes in there, make it look good, and then just refine. And hair is weird. Hair and water and cloth. Some of the most intricate shapes you'll get because they're super organic. Okay, now that I got some sense of this, of the muscle structure, I'm going to go back through and kind of soften them up just a little bit as well. I'm not worried about, at the moment, there's some warbles and some kind of funkiness happening, but I'm not really worried about that because I'm going to be ZRemeshing it, and eventually we'll be doing some manual retopology. I don't know if I'll retopo on stream because retopo takes a long time, but I will be doing a Z-sphere retopo. Okay, let's focus on this bottom section right here. I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of flip that off just a bit. Yeah, not a problem. Yeah. Using individual hair is a pain to fix for print. 100%. Yeah. Hair. Jeez. Beginner question. How difficult is it to combine hard surface modeling with organic sculpting? I think that's more of a... Oscar, I think that's a little bit more of an opinion depending on the approach you take. However, I'll be the first to say, I treat my hard surface sculpting like my organic sculpting, meaning I block it out. I don't know why I keep saying I'll be the first to say. That is like something I randomly picked up. So ignore that part. Was somebody at my door? Hold on. I'm sorry. 1 second. Literally just got a package. Crazy. Okay. So I treat my hard surface modeling like my organic modeling. So what I do is I focus on the block bout elements and I pick the basic shape. So let's go ahead and let's look at here, for example. Let's look at the Iron Giant, right? Keep blinding you guys with my white screen. We look at the Iron Giant as a good example. Let's just take a look at his shapes. The thing is that I always focus on blocking out stuff. So here's the character sheet. And what we have here is we have basically cylinders, we have rectangles, we have some spheres, we have pretty much a sphere for a head with a rectangle shape. So we have a lot of rectangle, spheres, and cylinders to work with. So you essentially can take your base shapes and break them down to the most primitive shape possible, and then block them out according to those shapes. Don't worry about the details. The problem with hard surface sculpting is that we always get caught up in like, oh, there's an undercut, there's a bunch of rivets, there's more undercuts. That right there is like, don't worry about that. The same way you would approach a organic sculpture by blocking out all the basic shapes with primitives, do the exact same thing with hard surface. Just block out with primitives all the shapes until you get a silhouette that looks pretty close to what you're going for, and then you go through the refine process, then you go through the detailing process. So the exact same thing. Thanks, man. Yeah, hair takes days, but the result is worth it. 100%. Hey, what's up, Anna? What's your opinion on doing hair with bend curve? Oh, I love it. Absolutely. I do that as well. I have a lot of random techniques I use. But yeah, I think bend curve is amazing. Actually, I learned bend curve technique a few years back with Shane Olson as he was showing everybody that stuff. And I really, really liked it. So 100% think it's awesome. It also gives you some nice control. And the cool thing with bend curve, actually, let's do that real quick. Let me just take a basic shape here. So I'm just going to take a primitive just for the example that we're speaking of here. But like insert mesh here, like a bend curve. Let's say this is my hair strand. I love this because I'm going to go ahead and actually, I'm going to split this off, right? So I'm going to take this, come through here, and I'm going to go ahead and just split hidden. And then this is what's really cool about bend curve is that I'm going to go ahead, use bend curve and adjust the resolution. Let's say something like, that's too much, just for this example. I'll do this shape, right? What's really cool about bend curve is if I have this hair here, this is some wild hair. So I have this hair here and I want to duplicate this. Notice that this yellow, that the cog here is actually still orange. So if I duplicate this by hitting the duplicate button, or if I hit Control Shift and D to go ahead and duplicate that model, now here I can come back into bend curve and I can refine that other shape. So I can get just a little bit of a different one, and then hit W again, place it where I would like that to be. As long as I don't modify the topology, same thing, I'll duplicate that, Control Shift D, come through here, make a new subtool, go back to bend curve, and then maybe have this one cross over a little bit, right? And then same thing, hit W again, and you get the process. So I really like bend curve for the final strands. I use this more for like individual strands that I really like want to work with one shape, bend it around, and this is like the last stage for me. You're absolutely welcome, Oscar. May I ask the difference between Dynamesh and ZRemesher? Absolutely. So Dynamesh is very much a tool in which is used for sculpting and kind of sketching out. At least that's how I use it. So with Dynamesh, let's say I wanted to give this raptor some wings, because I'm crazy like that. That's what we do. So I'm going to go ahead and do some building up here on the where the scapula should be. I'm going to take the move brush, and now I'm going to go ahead and start pulling this out, right? So here you go. First raptor with some Pegasus wings. Now notice when I'm doing this that I'm destroying the mesh. Nasty. Like, I just don't care. This mesh is gross. But here's the cool part. When you're ready to, and this is why I call it the ultimate sketching in 3D tool, is because when you're done messing with this, I just need to rebuild this. If Dynamesh is turned on, so if I go to Geometry, Dynamesh, and Dynamesh is turned on, I can rebuild this mesh really, really quickly. So now that mesh actually got rebuilt. So before it looked like this, now it looks like this. And now what I could do is come through and kind of smooth this out, maybe build on top of it, clay buildup, start building on top of this, right? And then all I need to do is control drag, and it will rebuild the mesh. Now in this case, I have really thin topology, so that's okay. I'm going to go to auto masking, so brush auto masking, back face mask. I'm going to come through and rebuild this section in here. And again, this allows me to build on top of this mesh and then rebuild so that that geometry can be welded and controlled. Whereas with ZRemesher, so let's back up in time, bloop, 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 bloop. The ZRemesher is a way to get subdivisions, or quote, a lower resolution mesh that you can build subdivisions on top of with a click of a button. So if I wanted, so let's just go ahead and duplicate this model, and I'm going to go ahead and hit solo out just for demonstration, because this whole model is pretty big as it is. So we're going to cut this down, maybe just cut his head off for now. So with ZRemesher, we're going to ZRemesh this head real fast. So I'm going to go here to ZRemesher, call this, just for the sake of argument, 20, and keep group. So I'm going to slide that down. This way the model doesn't shrink so much. And we're just going to go ahead and say ZRemesh. So now ZRemesh is going to take my model, and it's going to go ahead and rebuild with quads as best as it can. And now I'm going to have a low resolution mesh that I can sculpt on top of and start to get my details in a little bit better. And now I can subdivide and build on top of this. And the ZRemesh will basically, in a sense, hold the details better than Dynamesh can, and it won't be as dense. So I can hold more information at lower resolutions than I could with Dynamesh. And also, too, I can control the forms and make them nice and soft and read really well and get cleaner lines faster this way. However, the downside to ZRemesher is that once you stretch the mesh too far, so this is where that conversation comes in where if you're ZRemeshing a model, you're not really planning on changing the shapes too much at this point. You're basically planning on just refining and detailing. Well, here, I can't rebuild this. Once I stretch the mesh beyond its point of breakage here, I would have to ZRemesh. But by doing that, it's going to try to go back down to a super low resolution, and that's going to be basically wiping away my details. So then I'd have to project my details back, and that gets a little messy over time. So really, when you're thinking about Dynamesh, you're just thinking about, I need to create something quickly, I need to sketch something out, and you can take that as far as you want. I've seen fully fledged detailed models done in Dynamesh, and then they go through the ZRemesh, the retopo phase, and then project those details back. That's totally okay to do. But once you're in ZRemesh, you're not building the shapes anymore. You should be now kind of refining and detailing. So that would be the difference, and that's my preferred method. But yeah, so here you can see it's broken, and now I'd have to smooth all this down, and I can't just rebuild. I'd have to ZRemesh again, and again, this just keeps wiping those details out. So not an ideal way of using ZRemesher unless you absolutely had to go that approach. And welcome to my streams. Ian gives really long-winded answers. All right, so let's go ahead and bloop, delete that guy. Yay. So here, this is why I'm still in Dynamesh right now, because for me, I'm still kind of sketching out some aspects of him. Well, of her actually. I think that I'm still not convinced that everything is right in its proper place, but I'm also just having fun with it too. So, you know, me moving around, I can just rebuild if I decide, oh, I need to make a bigger sculptural change. Colin, what's up, dude? All right, sweet. Yeah. I remember a few years back, there was this, Colin, I'm sure you probably remember hearing this somewhere too. There was a conversation happening amongst streamers of like, oh, Dynamesh will die or Dynamesh will go away. And there was funny because there were some ZBrush artists that were like, yeah, I don't use Dynamesh anymore. I don't need it because I use, like Remesh by Union. And what's cool is like, I feel like Dynamesh will never really go away just because it's such a useful sketching tool. But it's definitely like, it is definitely an older approach. Dynamesh has been around for a long time, but I feel like it still changes the game quite a lot. Really cool. Let's see here, like I'm still kind of getting the shapes of the palms here. I gave some meaty palms here. Hey, what's happening? Welcome in, welcome in. Okay. Go back over here. Let's sketch this. So those who are coming in and new, welcome in, everybody. We're doing a Velociraptor based loosely off of the Jurassic Park movie franchise, kind of just referencing that style, but it's our own little Jurassic Park. It's not a nod to Jurassic Park. It's our own little raptor, but it's based off of that look and feel. Because we have a colleague of mine who has a series called VFX and Chill. You guys should definitely check that out too if you're interested in VFX and all the stuff that entails with that. And he's been doing this series where he takes a Velociraptor head and he swaps it. And then that got us thinking about other things we could do with Velociraptor and so forth. So I was like, dude, let's build our own raptor, and that's what we're doing. Really, really cool. So I'm super excited about it. But that's the style we're going for. And if you guys haven't checked that series out, just Google movies with Velociraptors. Like movie head, like Velociraptor head swap or something like that. Like it's super wild. Okay, let's go back to /3 for a second. Kind of refine this inner arm piece here. That, yeah, is that right? Okay. Wow, I just went to select and I did a random cut. Okay, let's do that. Yeah, on the back side here. There we go. Little bone here. There. There we go. Better. Okay, let's go on the tail. That section up just a little bit. Never used remesh by union. Should try sometime. Yeah, absolutely. Remesh by union is pretty cool. Here, I can give you an example, Tim's art. I think you'll dig it. I use this when I'm doing certain primitive blockouts. But for example, if I insert a sphere, and then let me actually just use primitive shapes here just for kind of craziness. So if I come through here and I remesh this part, let's say I want to add these two together like such. So remesh by union would come in pretty handy, if you didn't want to Dynamesh it. My only thought with remesh by union is that you definitely want to make sure that you have some pretty consistent quads going on. So you want to make sure at least that you have something that's pretty similar so that it welds pretty close together. But from here, you basically open up the gizmo, open up the cog, and then you're going to be doing a remesh by union. And then we look at before the after. It's going to go ahead and try to stitch itself as closely as possible. Yeah, you want to make sure that you do that without symmetry. You got to turn off symmetry and center the gizmo to the model for it to work. And then I turn symmetry back on, and then this is where I use something like smooth, yeah. I use like smooth with like sculptress turned on at like a low intensity, and then I come through and I rebuild that surface like such. Yeah. It's just clicking because clay buildup doesn't work with that. So I rebuild that, and then from there, you can come through and you can ZRemesh that. So you could turn groups on, and you can ZRemesh that. And that welds it together fairly watertight, actually. I'd say, yeah, it's really good. The thing is that you want to make sure that all your points are good. So sometimes maybe you can even, maybe keep it all one group at that point, and then maybe control your own section. Yeah, okay. Let me know. Yes. Okay. And then we'll go ahead and we'll just ZRemesh. And this is really, really helpful to then weld things that aren't Dynamesh together. And then you can go ahead and you can project those details back if you had, like we come back in time here. Say something like here. Yep. Through. I'm just going to go ahead and off. And then from here, I can go ahead and project history and get that detail back on my model. So it's really, really cool. It has its uses, and I use it for certain aspects. Just because sometimes Dynamesh kind of shrinks it and softens it too much. So that's a great way to merge things together. So, man, it's already been an hour. What the heck? Let's see here. How to make a velociraptor out of cardboard. That's awesome. what? Here, hold on. Here, hold on. Here. That's crazy. Okay. Let's go. Let's do it on YouTube. Let's do raptor head. Let's see. Twilight. Is that one? Is that one out? Oh, maybe that was a dangerous look. Here. Hold on, I'll find this. Hold on. EFX and chill. Here we go. Okay, here's one for you. Okay. So they had a. Come here. Let's turn this off. I don't need that off. So here they have like the scene where they're swapping heads. And so they have this raptor head here. You guys have, I'm sure you guys have seen this one. So here, he's playing, he's replacing Mel Gibson's head with a raptor head. Let's see if we have a good shot. There it is. And so he goes through this whole series. You guys should check this out. It's really, really cool. So I'm building for this, which is a lot of fun. Here, let me paste that right in there too. Thanks, man. Thanks, Lewis. Yeah. I'm on my personal computer today, working from home, which is cool. Do you know why do I know why they? No, that was actually before I joined the team, where I'm putting replay last, the last adjust at the top. I like it there. I like the replay last and last adjust because it's super useful, and we find it very, very handy. Of course, too, if it's something that you yourself don't use a whole lot, but I mean, for this, for example, like I'll show you a good example of why I use it and why I default for it. Let's say we have, like, when we're going to detail this guy here. So I'm going to go ahead and do spray alpha 60. I'm going to set this to a negative cut. So for example, if I want to have a lot of detail on this raptor, right? So I'm going to come through and I'm going to start adding some of these etches here. So I've just did all of this work, but now I'm like, okay, I really want this to be even more detailed than what it is. So your choices before this was to go back in time and try to do it, or the good old option where you hit it once and then you hit 1 a couple times and you kind of do that aspect, right? Well, here, what I can do is I can scrub back in time before I did that first cut, and I can go forward. So I bookmark a spot in time. Now I'm going to come forward. Yep. And now with that adjust last, I can actually adjust all of those cuts at the same time. So this is super handy, and it's actually kind of neat that it's all right here and ready for me. So you can see that all of this was adjusting, all of this. Because the thing is that once I make a movement, that counts as a stroke in ZBrush. So being able to have this here means I can push those details even further if I chose. So yeah, that's what I would say. That would be my thought on why they put it up at the top, because it is really, really handy. But yeah, but if you ultimately don't like it up there, just extend on that. Go ahead, go up to config, do enable customize, press Control and Alt, and then you can just like drag it in there and drop that and get rid of that. And then you can come through and save that UI out if you don't like it. How do I go about doing wrinkles? Always struggle with the technique and where to start. Ooh, that's a great question. With wrinkles, I use the XYZ method. You're like, what is that? With wrinkles with the XYZ, no, thank you. My phone. What I do is, so like, let's say, here, let's put pants on this guy. So let's go ahead and put some pants on him. Oop. A dinosaur with pants. Okay, so let's use my extract method real quick. Now, I definitely like cloth, like water, like hair, any of that stuff. I'm going to definitely refer to, like, there's anatomy to it. But the thing to remember, so let's extract. Let's go 0 on the thickness. and then let's go ahead and hit extract, and let's go ahead and hit accept. I did that because actually going to want to kind of clean this up a little bit. So I'm going to go to deformation. I'm going to go to my features. Let's go to deformation down here. Let's go to features, turn that little bubble off, and actually clean that up a little bit. Now I'm going to go ahead and ZRemesh this. So we're just going to do something like 20. That should be fine. But the thing to remember is there's anatomy in everything. There's anatomy in clothing as well. And the thing to really remember is that you have expansion and compression. Okay, so expansion is obviously things that are going to stretch, and compression is when things are going to be pushed into each other. So when you're designing cloth, you got to think for every time something expands, something else contracts. Anytime something is stretching on one side, there's like tug and pull, right? You have to remember that those polar opposites are usually happening at the same time. So for example, if we go really low with something like this, and I'm just going to go ahead and inflate this, something like that. So we have, there, now we got pants on them. So I'm going to smooth this down. So if I want wrinkles on him, I usually just start with the standard brush. I don't do too much on the difficult scale. There are some brushes that you can find that have really good drapery, but for this, you could just use the standard and then pinch and then dam standard as well. But for example here, like, so in this case, there's some stretching, that's going to be happening here on this side of things, right? So there's stretching occurring down his leg, but there's also going to be, his knee is bending. So there's compression here. So there are going to be little folds that happen. And then there are going to be some slight stretching that's going to happen on this side. So what I'm really thinking about is when I say like the XYZ method, a lot of time what I'll do is I'll kind of do like a little bit of like a Z pattern, kind of blend that in. So I'll do like a little bit of a letter Z on just the shape, go a little bit lower than that. And then sometimes too, I'll do like a little bit of like an X pattern just on the bottom. And you literally can like make some pretty good wrinkles with just drawing X, Y, and Z. So then here I have an X that's coming on this side, and then maybe like a little bit of a Z just down below. And then you kind of smooth those out, and then you define those a little bit. These are rough, but you kind of define these a little bit with cutting against that, and then maybe pinching on top just a bit, depending on how sharp those wrinkles are. So anytime you're doing cloth, you're going to have areas that compress, and then you have areas that expand. So you want to kind of just live off of that method a little bit and reference a bunch of stuff. So like here, there'd be some pull right here behind his leg. There would be some wrinkles coming in, and they all have to come from a spot. So this is where a point where things would be bending and folding. So here I'm actually making some negative cuts and some positive cuts, kind of blending those in together. But that's where there's going to be some movement happening on the back here, but not so much at the top. There wouldn't be a whole lot here. Maybe a couple wrinkles coming from this side here, maybe from over here. But again, I would just reference those and kind of get that locked in as best I can. This is kind of an odd thing already, but it's rare. You might see some memory fold wrinkles happen. Like, here, I'd actually do something like, you might see some memory fold wrinkles happen here. Not so much, but you might. So if you do, they'd be really, really subtle. They wouldn't be too strong. But kind of that back and forth. But sometimes here, like because there's movement on the inside, there'd be some movement coming through here. There would also be a lot of movement happening underneath. So little areas like that. But definitely research cloth folds. There's also a really good book. I have the PDF of it. Let me see if I remember what the cloth wrinkle book. See if that. There it is. Yes. This is also another really good book I recommend called Dynamic Wrinkles and Drapery for drawing. But you can reference all this. And again, if you look at the image, you can see here there's a lot of there's tension coming from the middle, and then he has compression and then expansion at the top. Again, compressing at the knee, but there's expansion on the other side. So you have a lot of that balance between where the compression of the wrinkle starts and where the fold actually ends up. And if you think of wrinkles as waves in water, you'll get something very close really quickly, even in the sketch phase. So lots of little things you can do. You can start with that. Hopefully that helps. You go wondering where did an hour ago after you give such a wonderful detailed explanation of stuff. I try. I'll 100% like transparent and honest. Like this stuff just takes time, and the more you practice it, if there's something that you're struggling with, I definitely recommend like just jump in there and try to make some pants, and see where that goes. It really does help. Yeah, I rant a lot. That's welcome. Maverick Designs where that quick tap alt does not work with. Wait. Quick tapping alt does not work with curve stoop snap brush. What? Wait, hold on. What do you mean? The tapping alt does not work. Can you expand on that a little bit? Have I used Polycam or Luma AI to scan objects and then edit them in ZBrush? I have not actually. Although I am getting a scan of myself that I will be trying to clean up. I've done very little photogrammetry cleanup, but everybody I've spoken to about it, they were like, it's time consuming, not necessarily hard. It's just you got to really make sure you're honoring the sculpt. So they were like, just get your hands dirty. So I'll be playing with that a little bit later. Reducing curve step value helps to some extent, but the result is not 100% satisfactory. Yeah, that's okay. But yeah, reducing the curve step would help. Sweet. I don't know. On a real dinosaur, yes, the pants were stretching in the. Wait. You abandoned your personal Twitch account? No, I have not abandoned my personal Twitch account. I just haven't had a whole lot of time to get back on there. Okay, let's get some details on this guy. So we're going to go back to the standard brush. We're going to go to the gray, and then we're going to go to alpha 60, and then we're going to do a subcut. We're going to go with a bigger brush, and now I can just come through and actually, you know what? I'm not going to do it with a standard brush. I lied to you. I'm going to do it with the form soft brush, because the form soft brush is going to give me some very nice and very it's going to honor the sculpt underneath, but also going to timestamp that right there. It's also just going to give me a little bit of a neat fleshy tone. I don't want to come through here. Now I'm also going to be coming through, and I'm just doing some X's when I do this pattern. I kind of like a little cross sketch. Now I'm going to come through. We were doing that adjust last, so I am going to use that just a little bit more. But now I'm going to come through with a smooth peaks. I'm going to drop this down just a little bit. I want to see what this looks like. See what the readability is on it. And then kind of go from there. Still want to finish up some of the underlining bits, but for me, this is going to help me kind of make sure that it's going where I need it to go. what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just save that brush out, and we'll call this, I'll throw this on my desktop, and we'll call this the Raptor skin texture. Although you could probably just use this for whatever. Right now, this will work out. I'm going to save that. And then let's get on to the last bit of the small details, and then we'll do some rebuilding. I'm actually going to undo this, but this is going to help me. How much would you recommend to have work professionally with the brush? Wait, how much? Oh, how much RAM? Sorry, I misread that. How much RAM? Well, it's CPU driven more so than anything else, CPU and RAM. So I have about 64 gigs of RAM. No, I have 48 on this machine. On this machine, I have 48 gigs of RAM with a Ryzen 7 GPU, and it works out really, really well. On my office computer, I have a Threadripper, so that's insane. So everything moves really, really quickly with 128 gigs of RAM, so that's insane. That's moving really cool. And then my home office computer, I have the Ryzen 9 with 64 gigs of RAM, and all those work really, really well. So the one I'm on right now is the least powerful machine, and it works really well, no issues. So I would say just as long as you have a really good CPU and some decent RAM, like 32 gigs and up, you should be more than fine. Because ZBrush works on machines that even have less. ZBrush works on laptops with like very little RAM. I worked on a machine not so long ago with only 8 gigs of RAM, and it was like a Intel i9. It ran perfectly fine. That's actually the perk of ZBrush, is it runs pretty much on any machine you put it on. So you don't need a whole lot. Where the limitations will be is when you start getting into millions and millions of topology, you will see a sudden slowdown. So if you're at least right around like 16 to 32 gigs of RAM, obviously this is just my suggestion, around there with a decent CPU, you should be fine to pretty much do whatever you need. I'm running an Asus board. Okay. I think we need to just look at everything. How did this nail get all the way over here? How did that happen? Over here, bro. Weird that nail was off over yonder. Get over there. Okay. I think we might be ready for some retopo work. Okay, we have like 30 minutes left, so retopoing on stream that's going to take a while, but how I'm going to do it is Z-sphere retopo. So I think I'm going to start that, because then I want to get into some blend shapes and some other things, but I want some good mesh. I want really good mesh as best I can get it. So I think I'm just going to go through and start retopoing. So with that being said, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, I'm going to create a new subfolder. So I'm going to copy this guy, and I'm going to come over here to this. I'm going to delete other. Sounds good. I'm going to paste this Raptor in and say, come here, and then just delete this guy. Perfect. And zoom in. No, you know what I'm going to do? Okay, the scale got a little different. So let's come through here. Just come here. Let's do that. Let's hide everything but this. And I'm just gonna say, gonna give me just this guy. Okay. Now he's the same size. Perfect. I'm gonna save this. I'm gonna call this my Raptor retopo. And I want that. My downloads for the Raptor retopo. Let's come here for one. This Dino emailed me. It said he wanted voxels. I love it. Perfect. What's up, Skyzol? How you doing? What's up? ZBrush even works on my PlayStation 1. That would be so funny. Imperial Fist, what's happening? Um, can you give me some advice? I want to T-pose my model. It contains all my subtools. As I know, the best way is to use the plugin for posing, but is it possible to back model the into T-pose symmetry? Possible? I mean, sure, it's possible. Like, so you want to pose your model. The question I'll have for you before I answer it is, is this a game ready character, or is this just like for a statue? Um, that's the first question I have for you. And when you say it's possible to back model, my brain is thinking you mean resculpt. The thing is, when I pose in ZBrush, if I'm posing for a statue, I break it. Here's a good example of me breaking stuff. Here. This pose is not locked in. There's still a lot of weirdness with it, but I did a Dynamesh pose, so you can see each one of these sections is cut and broken, and then I need to re-sculpt it once I am satisfied with this model, which I can tell you I'm not right now. There's some things I want to adjust with it, but and I did this just with Dynamesh posing, and then I used the transpose. But every time I pose in ZBrush, I break it and then I resculpt. But if you're going for a game character and you have everything ready for posing, then you'll want to try rigging it if that's your ultimate goal. But in ZBrush here, like I said, you could take your model and then have a low res and then try to pose it. There's a few ways you can go about it. For 3D printing, I would say for 3D printing, yeah, okay. So if it's for 3D printing, personally, I'd probably just take that approach and just break it and then resculpt it back. Don't be afraid to push it, but yeah, I would just use T-Pose Master then. And then maybe, like I said, like this Dynamesh one, all this is Dynamesh with groups. So then if I go here and rebuild this at any point in time, so let's say, what is this? What is this dense model? So let's say here. So if I rebuild this, those aren't going to weld. I can select that, and then I can pose that each piece individually. And I can even come through here and do auto groups. Now each piece completely separate, and then I pose that section. But don't be afraid to break your model, and then you can turn around and fix it. There's a lot of that happens. Hey, and happy Wednesday. Early Thanksgiving. Yes, happy Thanksgiving, guys. Congrats on your first ZBrush Summit hosting gig. You did a great job and didn't realize how tall you I get that a lot, Quixel. I get that a lot. But yeah, thank you so much. I had a lot of fun. It's such an honor to be on the team and just to be able to work so closely with Paul and Louie and everyone else. It's just amazing. So yeah, I enjoy it a lot. Okay, why am I sculpting on this guy? He immediately just started sculpting on it. I didn't mean to do that. Okay, so Z-sphere rig. So let's, not Z-sphere rig, Z-sphere retopo. So I'm going to enter a Z-sphere. Let's turn solo off here. I'm going to turn transparency. I'm going to go ahead and take the move. So you have Q, W, E, and R. W will be for move. So I'm going to go ahead and move that right where I need it to be. Make sure symmetry is turned on. And we're going to go to draw. We're going to go to topology and edit topology. Now with my draw function, I can start doing my retopo phase. And I'm going to start where it's simple in the world. I'm literally going to start putting down dots there. And I'm going to zoom in. Actually go to move that down. Now this is definitely gonna take some time. Also, I'm gonna go to adaptive skin, turn density down to 0 or 1 and do that down to 0. Go back down to here, so when I click this, I can actually see the quads that I am getting. Is awesome. Yeah, the headphones are super comfortable. Yeah, I like them. What's up, Rashawn? Yeah, Z-Sphere Retopo is really good. Dot there, I didn't mean to. Perfect. Right there. Have transparency turned on. Let's turn that part off. And ghost turned on. I mean to do that. Take the move and we'll start positioning some of these. Stomach bubbles. You liked it the least in there? Yeah, that's totally fine. All right, let's go ahead and go back to draw. Boop. Take a look at that mesh. Perfect. I was surprised how tight the cubicle space was for sideshow artists. No, seriously, yeah. Feels like the claws trophobic claustrophobic unless it could look small on camera. No, actually it was pretty it was pretty big considering each artist had some pretty good space on them. Yeah, I like that your UI is standard and you're sticking with the most basic ZBrush brushes and tools. Many presenters throw off newer users by having custom UIs and brushes. It's also great that you say what you are clicking and doing. Yeah, I try. That's definitely it for sure. So this raptor is meant for games. So this raptor will be animated for sure. Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. So the raptor is in a pose in which that is which is super convenient for me. So that way we can end up rigging stuff like that. And for anyone, so I do see some talk about the anatomy of the hands, and fear not. So here's my reference, and you have the palm here, and then you have the main three fingers that come through. Here's the anatomy of such, where it's basically your wrist bone, and then your three fingers point out. So I have the main palm and the three fingers kind of coming out and down, and then I have the claws coming through. Now they're facing in a way that is easy for me to retopo, and then I adjust the final mesh when it's done. So I do understand what you're saying, but this is a purposeful choice. So no, the anatomy is not busted. It is just in a position that is comfortable for me. But thank you for your thoughts. May I ask why parts of the body have different polygroups? So a lot of our so on this guy, there are different polygroups because it's easy for me to pose with Dynamesh. So what I can do is when I Dynamesh with groups, you're turning around and then we are so they're not welding together. So I can select a specific spot here. So I can come through and say I want that part, that part, that part, right? And then what I can come through is now with the mask section, I can now pose this exactly where I want it to be. So that's why I have it that way. It's just a different technique. Yes, the hands are T-posed. Let's continue. Now let's actually move here. So I'm going to have to start deciding on when and where I want some certain points happening. But right now, let's just kind of go right down the middle. Boop, boop, and boop. Oh yeah, absolutely. And then let's come through, and again, we can just kind of move this. So I'm probably going to want my pole right about there. I'm going to reposition this. That makes a little bit more sense. Okay, we have a few more minutes. I stream to noon usually, and I do this every Wednesday. So awesome for joining and hanging out. I really appreciate it. And the questions are super amazing, so great job. Feel free to always ask questions. I love it personally. Okay, so I think that's where I'm going to want my pole. Also going to, let's start counting right about here. Actually go back. Let's come through here. Let's do 1, 2, 3. Ba 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 ba. That's right there. Like such. That kind of loop in there. Take a look at that mesh real quick. Get the move brush. Sure. The muscles are, there's going to be some muscle definition that's going to showcase, but for the most part, a lot of that is just, a lot of that is visual reference so that I know exactly where everything is at, especially during the retopo phase. There's still going to be a lot of anatomy refinement, but all the main forms are there for what I need to continue forward. I like to sculpt my secondary and my secondary and tertiary details on a cleaner mesh than what I have right now. Retopo goes so much faster with loud music, a strong beat in the headphones. Yeah, actually, I'm going to be really focusing on getting the retopo done today, for sure. And what version the retopology is available? Retopo is available as far back as 4R7, even further, maybe, I think. Maybe just ZBrush 4, but it's just ZSphere. So you just log in your so you just bring in a ZSphere, and then you go down to your adaptive skin, turn your density down to 1 and your Dynamesh to 0. and then go into retopology and then say edit topology. You can always turn this off, which is nice. Come back to it at any point in time, and then that's really, really cool. But yeah, ZBrush has had retopo for a long time, a very long time. Last 2 questions. I love it. Question 1, may I ask your Instagram account and our ArtStation account so I can see your beautiful works? Oh, thanks. And question 2, do you work for the ZBrush company? Yes, I do. So I work at Maxon. I'm a ZBrush trainer. I teach ZBrush to, well, pretty much to anybody who needs it. And then, of course, these live streams here. But also, too, I work closely with Paul and Louie, which is really awesome and super amazing. And so I do a little bit of, I have a lot of hats, but I love it. So yeah, I do work with them. And yeah, pretty much you can look me up anywhere if you just type in IR Sculpts. But yeah, definitely, here, let me give you my ArtStation, because I have all my links on there too. How about that? Actually, this has all the links in my about section too. Thank you, man. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, you're so welcome. Yeah, I love it. And really with retopoing, what's really cool, so like what I do is, so I have my cue for draw. So what I do is you can select random points. So the blank space out here in the world is really good to kind of reset yourself. So you just tap once where you want to start, and the big arrow, so the white arrow, you have your starting point and where that point will end up. And from here, you can branch off in any direction. So when you see this white arrow here, you notice like I can come straight down, come back around, and then touch that point. And now, because I'm working symmetrically, it drew that point. And now from here, I can either come down this way, and notice I'm using this outside section here to kind of move. I'm not right-clicking. This is why I don't always right-click, because if I right-click from here, that indicator goes away, and I'd have to retouch that. So instead of doing that, I just move here. So I'll move around, and it keeps that point, and then I can come through, create my loops, and I can just touch real quick, and Control Z, and it will remember that placement, which is really awesome. So I can just come through and start making my loops. Now this is, of course, you know, a little bit of an older way to do this, but I just like it because I have full control over it. Now there's another way that you could also do retopo in ZBrush, and it's the Z modeler way of doing things. So if I wanted to do like a Z modeler, so I'm actually going to close this off for a second, and you can see here I got my loops. What I'm going to do is, let's say if I wanted to do like a Z modeler approach, or if I wanted to use the existing mesh that I have here for that Z modeler approach. So with this, I'm going to just go ahead and make this my adaptive skin. So once you're set with it and you really like it, you go to your adaptive skin, you have your preview option, and then you make your, you make that now your, you make that, geez, I can't speak. You make adaptive skin, and that makes now your mesh actual topology. And from here, like this shape, I could, with ZModeler, go BZM. I could extend off of this to make it a little bit faster. So there's a ZModeler brush built in with ZBrush, or you could just make it. To just make it, you can go here, hover over an edge, and say you're going to extrude on an edge, and you're going to choose snap the surfaces, and then you're going to go hover over a point, and you're going to keep that on move, but snap the surface, hover over a face, and say do nothing, right? And now what you could do is when you go to extrude out this point, so let's copy this real quick, because every time we say make adaptive, it makes it on a new subtool. I'm going to go ahead and just paste it right in here, hide this one. So now I have the part of my my topology that I want to continue going. I now can drag this out, turn on transparency just for a second. I'm going to drag this out, and then I'm going to go ahead and press and hold Alt. Here, real quick, turn off symmetry. Get a good angle to show it. So now I can actually just start dragging out loops. Of course, now I'm on a crease. Let me actually uncrease this. Go to crease. and uncrease all. Whee! So I can drag out a single point. So let's just do edge loop. Back up, back up. There we go. Come on. Wow, I just broke this. This is not a good example. Good job, Ian. Come learn with me as I break everything. Yay! I can admit it when I break something. I'm not doing that. Okay, great. Through here. We just expand. What happens to the best of us? Okay, so have this point here. Come on. Wow, it's really just like not loving me here. Okay, never mind. We'll back up. But I like the retopo Z-spheres area. Wow, it's just not loving me today. It's like going on in a different direction. I think I messed something up. Let me try something real fast. I don't like it when I mess up. So let's see. Let's go here, go do brush, and then retopo. Give me a different result. There we go. There we go. That's the one you want. Forget how you make it. Just come up here to brush, and then you got your retopo. Click that one, Z modeler retopo. Come through, and you can just start dragging. You can press Alt to get multiple loops going. So this is what I was trying to showcase. So now you can actually get those loops in pretty quickly. That's how you would want to do that aspect. So don't make it the way I made it. Just come up here. What are the settings here? Yeah, extrude, edge loop, snap to surface. I think I just broke my brush. Move, snap to surface, and do nothing. Yeah, same thing. I just broke it. Yeah, exactly. But, you know, hey. Yeah. So the Earthworm Gym is actually my, the Earthworm Gym is actually my, oh, you know what? That's what it was. I'm on the wrong thing. here's my Z sphere one. I'm on preview. No wonder it wasn't working. I'm a doofus. All right, perfect. Don't beat me, kids. I meant to start on this one, and I was on this one instead. Well, Sesame Street. That's how we do it. So let's just continue. Let's go back here to my topology. Say go back to edit. And the rest is history, kids. The rest is history. If you do see little dots like this, you can come through and just Alt-tap those. That actually deletes those loops. Did you learn the anatomy for the specific creature, or using your knowledge of creatures and applying this one? So actually, I'm using some anatomy charts that I've found, and I'm using my knowledge of anatomy to then kind of understand this. And I've referenced other animals that are close to, but there's a lot of information, like the skull shape and how the anatomy in the skull is. So I'm using some reference, and then I'm using some visual aid of the final forms and details of different raptors that I've seen that are of this style. So I'm utilizing a bit of my knowledge, but then to basically reverse engineer how this is in itself. And then I have another chart that has like some body fat indicators and where that should be technically. But again, dinosaurs are so unique because the anatomy is like, it's ever changing, it's ever evolving, because we're discovering more and more about these creatures. I am no expert in dinosaurs, but I just think they're cool. And it was, I thought it'd be a fun little challenge. What about ZRemesh for retopo with polygroups and guides? It works fine sometimes. Yeah, so the thing is that if you want ultimate control of your loops, then it's always best to fall on the sword of manual retopoing. And I think everybody should learn it, because manual retopoing is going to get you very far very quickly. And it's really going to help you understand everything about it and what you need. So definitely don't skip on that. But yes, ZRemesh can get you really close, especially if you take the time to kind of group your model the way you want your seams to be. You can even get some really good UVs out of it. So It's definitely an approach that I've taken before, but because I know this is going to a rig department, I want something that I know is going to work for them. So manually retopoing this is going to be the best approach possible. Be placing a pole right about here. Leave that there. I can always cut in edge loops. I was sitting bothering me, like, why isn't it working? Like, it would have bothered me. Yep. Yeah, it driving me pretty nuts. Not gonna lie. Okay, and this is why I check it too. So I got a random line right here. I'm actually gonna go ahead and get rid of that guy, get rid of that guy. Come through here and retap that. I'm always checking, so that way I know exactly what's happening to my loops. So I'm always hitting A. It's just easier that way. You just start pushing this down. Okay. Come all the way back here. Let's retap the outside. Let's come through here. Come through and close that section. Retap that. Through here. Tap that one. Tap that one. This is why I like it, because I can just follow those arrows and really get something fast. I can come through and kind of clean this up just a little bit. As we're getting closer and closer, gotta figure out how to close this in a way that makes the most sense, because we're getting tighter down here at the bottom. What we got here? We got a couple minutes. I'll make sure I'm not losing any questions. ZModeler, when using Alt key to highlight a face, is there a way to select the whole loop of the face at once, or do you have to select them individual? Great question. That's a really good question. Here, let me save this real quick. Let me hit this as my retopo. I'm troubleshooting the world. Okay, so let's come here to the cylinder. Let's make Polymesh 3D. Okay, so let's go with the normal ZModeler brush. So B, Z, and M. Okay, so for grabbing loops, if you want to do a whole loop, one of the methods that I do is especially if you have like symmetry turned on, you just press and hold Alt. Wait, what is happening? Is it moused? Oh, I have it set to do nothing. Good job, Ian. Okay, so back to the QMesh. So here I have my, if I tap one time, you can tap Alt and press and hold and drag. So you could press Alt and do this. And this is a really quick way to do a temporary selection. So you could just press Alt, just drag while you're holding Alt, and just drag it this way. But if you're trying to get specific loops, like if I want this whole loop, to be a different poly group because I want to affect that poly group, just go to the edge and then select poly group and then press and hold Alt, and you can select multiple edge loops with different poly groups. This is way faster in my opinion. So then I can affect just those things right there. But with the Alt method, the fastest way I know is to press and hold Alt and just drag it, and then press and tap to get rid of it. So it really just depends on how you want to do it. Again, I would fall on the sword. I only do the Alt tap when I am trying to get like either specific shapes or I don't need to do the whole loop. I'll just come in and just tap that. So that's the approach I would take. So yes, you kind of have to touch one at a time, but the Alt hold and drag across the screen makes that really, really fast. And then of course too, if you wanted to kind of undo that selection, like let's say if you have poly groups and you're like, oh, I selected this one, I didn't mean to, and I want to make this one green again, press and hold Alt, tap, let go, and then press Shift, and then that removes that. So if you have accidental loops like this, I want this one green, come here to the one next to it, that's the color that you want, press and hold Alt, tap, so it's a temporary selection, let go, and then press and hold Shift, and that will do that. So if we have this here, right, so let's make this a new poly group. Say that. And I want this to be purple. I'll press on the Alt. So I'll press Alt, tap, let go, hold Shift, then I'll make that purple. Or if I want that green, here, press and hold Alt, let go, hold Shift, and then make that green. So really, really cool tricks. But that Alt drag for mass selection is probably your best bet. And then you got the loop section. Do you count the retopology, like only 2,000 faces once it's done? If I have a limiter, like if I have somebody saying it only has to be 20,000 faces, yes, I will count, but I don't initially count that as I'm going. What I do is I count my loops instead. So when I'm doing like this tail, for example, I'm just kind of counting my loops, and then from there, making sure everything is even. So what I do on one side, I make sure that it's going well on the other. So for example, connecting the tail, I knew I had my 1, 2, 3. I had my 2 loops on each side and one down the middle. And then I wanted to make sure that when I was placing the tail, I was getting the same results. So I count where it counts. I count when I need to, but I only start paying attention to higher numbers if I know, again, I have a limiter and I'm getting close to having the whole thing blocked out. Then I start refining the actual wireframe. But for the most part, I don't really count. Like, I just keep an eye on it. Oh yeah, where can you buy one of these hats? Absolutely. Here, I got you. I'll get you a link. Then that's gonna be it for the day. I'll just gonna be doing more retopo stuff later. So here, let's go to. Let me pull up the link. All right, so there's actually a merch store that we have, and look at you, Dougie. Doug already did it. Good job. Thanks, man. I'm not prepared on this computer, but but yeah, go down, and so you have the merch store, and then at the bottom you actually have you have a ZBrush beanie like this one. Super awesome, and they're really, really good quality, really comfortable. Yeah. Yeah, so this is not a scientific reconstruction. This is just sculpting a dinosaur to sculpt a dinosaur. Making sure I don't miss anything. Yeah, looking at hairless hairless animals is a great way to learn anatomy for sure. Thank you for answering a lot of questions. Wish you have a wonderful day and wish all the good lucks and happiness. Thank you so much. It's noon already. Holy moly macaroni. It's already time to say goodbye. But thank you guys for stopping by. This Raptor is still lots of work to do on it, but I'm really excited where it's going. I'm going to be rebuilding the mesh the rest of the way, then getting the details, then getting things quickly refined, and then from there, once everything's refined and reshaped, I also want to do blend shapes, so I might be covering blend shapes in the near future as well, and how I plan on at least getting the mouth to open and close and do some movement. Maybe some test pose with blend shapes would be neat. This way, A, it kind of expands on how this will be animated, but B, it's also going to showcase just what the model itself can do. So there's still a lot to do with this creature. I've finally got some time on it, and I'm happy. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Thank you all for the wonderful hangout. I always appreciate you all. This is awesome. Yeah, happy Thanksgiving to everybody here in the States. Everybody celebrates Thanksgiving. Thank you guys so much. You need a stream outro song when you sing. You don't want to hear me. You don't want to hear me singing. You don't want that. I'm telling you. All right, everybody. That's gonna be it. Again, thank you guys so much. All of you have been super wonderful and very, very helpful. And I will catch all of you later. Have a good one, guys. Happy holidays. Bye.